Welcome to our second 60-second stats video, statistics in 5 minutes or less. In this second video for Chapter 1, we'll be discussing the concept of parameter versus statistic. If you haven't already, make sure you have a solid understanding of populations and samples and what they mean. You can go back to our first 60-second stats video if you need more review with this. As a quick review, when we are talking about an entire group of individuals to be studied, that is our population. When we take a subset of that group, a subset of the population, that is called our sample. And then an individual person or object that is a member of the population being studied is just called an individual, okay? So parameter versus statistic. A parameter is a numerical summary of a population. Okay, so when we collect data from an entire population and we use some sort of numerical summary to describe it, we are talking about a parameter. A statistic is a numerical summary based on a sample. So then when we take that subset, that sample of our population, and describe it using a numerical summary, we are using a statistic. And we'll put that in context in just a minute. So a really great way to determine if we are working with a parameter or a statistic is to ask ourselves this question. Does this number describe a population or a sample? If the number is describing a population, then we are dealing with a parameter. And the really nice part is population and parameter both begin with a P, so that can help us remember. If the number is describing a sample, a subset of that population, then we're talking about a statistic. And again, sample and statistic both start with S, which will help us remember. So you should always ask yourself, is this number describing a population or a sample? Let's take a look at an example. Suppose the percentage of all students on your campus who have a job is 84.9%. This value represents a blank because it is a numerical study of a population. So our population, this is a population because it's all students on our campus. Well, we remember population, parameter. So 84.9% is a parameter. Suppose a sample of 250 students is obtained, and from this sample we find that 86.4% have a job. This value represents a statistic because it is a numerical summary based on a sample. So we took a sample of students from the population of all students. So when we are talking about a numerical summary of a sample, that's a statistic. Sample, statistic, population, parameter. So let's do a quick application. Following the 2014 national midterm election, 18% of the governors of the 50 United States were female. Is this 18% a parameter or a statistic? It's a parameter because it represents the entire population of governors in the whole United States. The average score for a class of 16 students taking a statistics midterm was 72%. Is this a parameter or a statistic? Don't let this one trick you. This is a parameter because we're talking about all 16 students taking that midterm. So it represents the entire population of that class. In a national survey of 1,300 high school students grades 9 to 12, 32% of respondents reported someone had bullied them at school. Is this a parameter or a statistic? This is a statistic because we're only looking at a sample of 1,300 high school students from the entire national population of high school students. And finally, only 12 men walked on the moon. The average time spent on the moon was 43.92 hours. Is this a parameter or a statistic? This is a parameter because these 12 men represent the entire population of people who have walked on the moon. Oh, one last one. A study of 6,076 adults in public restrooms in Atlanta, Chicago, New York City, and San Francisco found that 23% did not wash their hands before exiting. Is this a parameter or a statistic? This is a statistic because it's based on a sample of 6,076 adults in the population of these cities. So it doesn't represent every adult in these cities, just a sample. So 23% is a statistic. Be sure to test your knowledge about parameters versus statistics by using the below Kahoot. Have fun!